Peace. Good afternoon. Hoping that my audio is working. Actually, let me verify that for myself. Today is Tuesday, June 17th. Dreary East Coast, overcast weather. But nevertheless, glad you guys are listening to me at this current juncture. I hope everybody's doing okay, in spite of all the craziness that's happening throughout the world. And I don't want to be on here for long. I'm just trying to test different times and see when people come through more. And I'm gonna be running around later, but wanted to cover some of the stuff that's been happening throughout the world. If you guys don't know or have been living under a rock, Israel and Iran have gone into a confrontation that has large scale implications, being that Israel is a superpower and Iran is also among the highly militarized nations. They're going at each other, it seems, as with strikes. As of now, from today, if you guys aren't keeping up with what's happened today, not much in the terms of escalation as far as like physical or kinetic battle from anything I've read on Twitter or seen on the news. The one thing, though, has been announcements from Donald Trump regarding this conflict. And throughout the weekend, there were, and yesterday there was meetings that Trump had with the G7 nations in Canada, and he made a few statements really quickly um, regarding the conflict, and made it seem as though he was leaving back to DC because he had other pressing matters to attend to, which makes sense. He was criticized for leaving the G7 meetings yesterday early, even though he announced that he signed a few deals, which he showed to the press before he left. But the impression that everyone got when he was leaving the G7 meetings early yesterday was that he was leaving back to DC, and it was in reference to something happening between Iran and Israel. Um, so throughout the night, I think a lot of people anticipated like maybe a breakthrough of some sort, or maybe a U.S. Involvement after Trump had left those G7 meetings. And it doesn't seem as though there's been like wide scale like videos of bombings and whatnot that are happening in either nation. It seems like regular, like kind of on the lighter side, if you will, as far as compared to other war scenarios. I'll put it like that. But one thing was that there was reports that an Iranian general or military person of high ranking that was in position for 4 days because his predecessor had been offed by way of one of these military strikes. Well, I think as of this morning, they said that he had also been life ended by a strike or a directed strike, if you will. You'd have to guess. Um, and that's one bit of news that I've seen, like today, I guess, as far as any updates go in the Iran-Israel conflict. But and also something else that I seen were Trump's postings regarding this conflict. But within his Truth Social or Twitter post, he put out that they had control of the Iranian skies. And another post, I don't want to misquote either of these because I don't have them in front of me, unfortunately, but another post that he put out there was in reference to like a surrender, like complete surrender. I don't know who he was talking to, but you could only guess that he was talking to Iraq. But it was two words in a short post, and it was in reference to someone surrendering. I'm not sure, but you could guess it's Iran because of the statements that Trump put out earlier throughout the weekend that the U.S. was defending Israel and that he wanted Iran to make a deal. That hasn't changed from Trump. If you guys haven't been keeping up, Mark Nash, peace, man. Thank you for coming through too, as well. Glad you're here, brother. But as far as the statements haven't changed, even though he has given support in saying that he would defend Iran. I mean, Iraq, Israel. Excuse me. But he's also still asking Iran to make a deal with the U.S. in spite of that, and the inferences that have been made by Trump to not only Iran but to a lot of other nations that he's done deals with since he's been in office is that while the U.S. and said country like Saudi Arabia, for example, like they've made a deal with the U.S., but seemingly it's as if Trump's putting it out there for the world that should you get into a deal with the U.S., that our relations are good so long as that deal is good in essence. I mean, so he's kind of like asking Iran to do the same. I mean, and he was also saying kind of like the same thing while he was in these meetings with the Arabic countries, uh, pretty much sending messages out to Iran that he wanted to make a deal with Iran. And he's saying this from the seats of the Arabic power nations when they all met up with Trump, I think like 2 months ago. I'm not sure if that 60 days that Trump supposedly gave Iran as a deadline to make a deal, I'm not sure if that correlated with the, or whether that was 60 days from the time that he met these Arabic nations. If you guys aren't aware, he met the Arabic nations in like Saudi Arabia and other countries. But he's still maintaining that is offering a deal to Iran. I'm not sure every facet of that deal, but the main thing that he's putting out there is that he doesn't want Iran to have the capability of refining um, uranium to make a nuclear weapon in essence. And I mean, I don't want to take a position on that either way. My one question though with all that is where the hell did they get enriched uranium from? Jump. I thought like that only a very limited number of countries that we all knew had it are the only ones that had enriched uranium. But I digress. It seems as though he's still offering a deal out to Iran, in spite of the fact that this is the largest escalation, probably, or this is the one of the this is a escalation that's happening in another theater that has probably the most implications because of the nation that's involved, especially that they're allied to the U.S. So I mean, I'm taking it day by day. Like I'm not I'm not MAGA all the way. I mean, like some people will allude or subscribe to the notion that anyone who is critical of Democrats or that didn't want Biden or Kamala Harris to win these past elections, that equates one is a Trump lover through and through and doesn't have the capability of questioning things that happen in this administration. In spite of the fact that there's many good things that have happened since Trump has come back in office, I am still taking a wait and see approach with, as I do with every president, like, and I'm taking a wait and see approach. I still think that um, if this scenario in terms of Israel versus Iran were playing out with Kamala in office or with Joe Biden in office, that we just would have waltzed into World War III, frankly. I think all these other countries, the Ukraines and Russias of the world, China, Taiwan, they just all would have just ramped up their current battles in the terms of like Ukraine and Russia, and Israel probably would have just launched off on God knows who in the Middle East. So things are highly pressurized across the world, and I'm more confident in the fact that Trump is seemingly a lot more competent than anything that the liberal left could have offered at this time. And I'm not saying that because any other Republican would have fit the bill. I think of any politician, I'm not, and again, I always take a wait and see approach with any politician, but pretty much right now, there's one politician that um, says things that I want to hear, and not 100%, but is more in line with my with thinking to make America successful, which is very important for me and mine. But I could always be critical of Trump. I could hold two opposing views, and I think most people need to be doing that in 2025 rather than team rooting. But again, there's no real news to report as far as any other things that I know that have happened in Iran. Uh, as far as yesterday, since I came on live last, the and the posts that Trump put out are kind of like the most gun ho in a sense, like as far as like saying that he has air supremacy over Iran. Again, like saying the post that he was looking for like complete surrender. It's very bombastic and sort of an escalation as far as rhetoric goes. In that, and in spite of that, I mean, he's also, I think, just today, still saying that he wanted Iran to make a deal. So, again, we could all wait and see. I mean, like, seems like there's a million things happening all at once. And oh, I'm sorry, I didn't see the other comments. Tired as hell. It's 6:30 in Japan. Oh, shout out to the team too in Japan. Good luck on the fight too, Mark. Just wanted to hit the like button and show support. Much love, man. But Trump tore up the last nuclear deal. That he did. And it seems as if the deal that he's attempting to negotiate is very similar to the one that was already in place. The current, as far as news, before I move on to the next subject, is that we're still like in a conflict that has launched off and been fought out these past 4 or 5 days in the same fashion. Pretty much missile strikes and drone strikes from afar. And if something should pop off that is really, really newsworthy, I'm going to jump on and come through and talk with you guys as well. But nothing of note has happened besides what I mentioned. I mean, it is very noteworthy, though, that he mentioned the air supremacy and the complete surrender, whatever he said. Damn, I mean, I wish somebody else, like, were on Twitter or up on Twitter, Truth Social, could tell me exactly what he said in the post that was just 2 words. I have an article that I'm going to read, funnily enough, but it has nothing to do with this. It has to do with the Kash Patel statement that he put out today, the other story. But a lot of people were making much of what Trump said regarding the bombastic True Social post that he put out regarding domination of Iranian skies and looking for Iran to surrender. And but on the heels of that, I mean, it's not. He's still, again, kind of confusingly, if you will, or I don't know if it's like fog of war, like things are meant to be confusing, but he's still offering a deal while still kind of like playing the cut regarding the defense of Israel. So I'm not sure how these things are playing out. MAGA seems very divided regarding the support of Israel. If you guys don't know, I mean, like MAGA doesn't think there's a lot more diversity in thought with the MAGA crowd than with the hyper liberal crowd. And I'm speaking from experience. The hyper liberal crowd, there's no divergence of thought the last 10 years. There's a divergence of thought when it comes to talking perversions. But outside of that, it's a lot of screaming and violence with liberals when you bring up certain topics or certain viewpoints. But I digress. But as far as MAGA goes, there's a far more difference or calicopia of different thought processes when it comes to people's support of Israel is one good example of that. Um, there's a lot of newly converted hood Republicans, as some people call them, and a lot of them you know operate with the sense that there is racism in the world, and it doesn't favor just the conservative party, where Republicans are all outright racist, and they look at things as you know there could be racist among both, and we got to start looking out for what's best for us, and they choose to go and vote conservative as a means, um, in terms of these new school hood Republicans, that their thought processes are far different than say like the redneck, um, who may actually be racist. I'm not saying all rednecks are racist or all white people are racist. They're far more enjoyable, like rednecks, honestly, than they are enjoyable or people in like New York City at this stage, honest. And I'm from New York City, so like much love to my city, but I gotta call things how they are. But in the conservative um, school of thought in 2025, there's far more variance of opinion, and this whole conflict, in terms of Trump's seeming affirming of defending Israel, in addition to, let me turn off my notifications. I'm sorry. In addition to, a lot of MAGA is split on the fact that they don't want America to enter into a war, which a war in Iran. I mean, a lot of people are saying that that could yield far more damage and death than the Iraq War 1 and 2. So there's a lot of people that are split on this whole thing, that are upset even at this administration regarding a potential of a war breaking out in this new field. Nathaniel Rufa, thank you for coming through. It's hard because the Bible says support Israel. Yeah, I mean, but we're here now, like you and I. So and we gotta operate with it's not as if you or I could make much difference. And thank you for coming through. Um, but I guess we gotta kind of have our heads in a swivel as far as how we feel nowadays. Like things are flowing. Everything seems to be changing rapidly. You know, so and I'm not telling you not to or be pro or right now. I say more like we gotta take a wait and see approach with almost anything. I was saying earlier too, like with that wait and see approach as far as this administration, and even though I didn't want the Democrats to win this last election, yet as of right now, and it's still really early into this administration. Shit, it's only like 5 months, I believe, that we're into Trump as the 47th president, and look at all the craziness that's up in the air. And I mean, as far as craziness that's up in the air, The only thing that's really popped off that's nuts is this, to be frank, the Iran Israel thing. Because the Russia Ukraine thing was already in play. The um, tariff stuff and a lot of other things that are brought up over and over in the media in an effort like to make Trump look bad. Like since he's been in office, like, and the tariffs are a good example of that because it actually wrecked the market momentarily, and the market has since rebounded. But a lot was made of that, and a lot of it has been nothing burgers. I'm not sure, like, I mean, and the deportation things. I mean, like, a lot of people are very happy about deportations. You know, especially in the MAGA base. And there are a lot of liberals that are happy about it too. They just won't tell you. But besides that, there hasn't been any crazy things that have happened in the Trump administration besides this recent apocalyptic war scenario that could potentially break out in the Middle East. But besides that, everything's good. Um, yeah, let me read this other comment. God bless you, brother. The best thing you can do now is have our limits and know when they're being crossed. Yeah, certainly. You know, and I also subscribe to the notion, like, and I was raised Christian too, brother, Mr. Nathaniel. Thank you for coming through as well. I was raised super Christian, and my opinions on all this, like as far as those things, have changed many times over, and I still have a lot of in spite of that though, I still have a lot of love for people going to church. I think it's good, and but God's but the nation that I live in, America, I also feel is God's chosen nation, and I think that the fact that we're here is a big responsibility. I don't want things to go awry. As America goes, so does the world too. But since Trump's been in office, this is the biggest thing that has happened, like the biggest calamity, and still, I mean, it hasn't really escalated to that sense yet. I mean, there's also reports. That's another thing I forgot to say, is that there's reports of aircraft carriers going into that theater as far as positioning themselves near the Israel-Iran conflict, and that's scary stuff too. That's it. That's actually a big escalation. But unfortunately, in terms of this story, like with Iran and Israel, they don't really report it enough. I mean, like, they should be laying that situation out for the American people to disseminate. And what you get as far as the mainstream media in America is a lot of cheerleading for Israel by way of Fox News, and you get a lot of soft coverage as far as in terms of Israel-Iran conflict. This is what I'm seeing. As far as CNN and MSNBC, the liberal networks, they're more giving it soft coverage. There's kind of reporting it like for a couple minutes and then moving on to like the No Kings protest or something, you know, or moving on to like the Minnesota manhunt that was underway, or like an Indian plane crashing. They're not really giving a lot of relevance, I guess, to how important the Iran-Israel conflict is. And as far as on Fox, a lot of it is basically straight up cheerleading for Israel, like where they have like just now I saw, like, there's like a black skinny lady on Fox. She's pretty, but her bottom like teeth are a little bit rugged. Um, I think it's Faulkner, maybe Faulkner Focus, but they just had her on with a like retired Israeli general or something, and anybody who comes like and speaks as a panelist on Fox that is talking anything military regarding this conflict are basically all the way gun ho and wanting the U.S. to enter into the conflict. I think they had Lindsey Graham too. I haven't watched the interview with Lindsey Graham, but again, I try to watch Fox News. Of all the mainstream media I watch, and again, I don't watch mainstream media to be informed. I watch mainstream media knowing that they're lying to me and to be entertained. Such that I only watch liberal media. I only watch liberal media because they're the biggest BS artists, and Fox. It's only one channel like that they offer to, which is quote unquote conservative. But I do remember on Fox, like when they had the war in Iraq. As a young man, a lot of their coverage was stars and stripes, like on the edge of the TV constantly, as far as on the ticker, God bless America, like pro like soldier stuff, like war, 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 war. And we haven't even really got into it here in Israel, Iran, and the people that come on as far as panelists go and their guests when they come to speak on the subject, it seems as though they're pushing for kind of like the same result over on Fox. Over on the liberal media, most of it is, as far as the reporting that's happening in the last week or so, has been maybe a quarter of it regarding the Israel Iran conflict, and the rest of it, it's trying to frame Trump in a certain light as far as saying how magnificent these No Kings protests were, for instance. Like, not really showing the on the ground as far as how nuts those people are screaming and profane, like cursing, as far as the attendees of these liberal events, like, when they tear shit up. But a lot of the news that's being pushed is kind of giving the impression that there's no King's thing is like a momentous wave that's gonna run into um, the 2026 or something. And to me, it seemed as if it was a dud by and large, as far as how much money you probably poured into it, and the shit weather that God gave us over the weekend in many of these cities, which kind of dampened the turnout. But a lot of the media reporting has to do with non-stories like No Kings. I don't even like covering it. I like it. I'm more covering it as a sense of showcasing how shit our liberal media is. But you also have the Minnesota assassin story that they've been pumping out a lot, which seems extremely sus. So all I'm gonna say about it, I mean, I don't want a AJ lawsuit on my hands. It just seems to me as if the Minnesota situation stinks to high heaven. Um, and again, if you guys could, whenever there's one of these shootings in America, if there's any bit of entertainment that you could have for free, it's that once these shootings happen, try to watch a lot of the news as it's happening, like literally like 10 minutes, 15 minutes afterwards, or like, but like try to watch the news as soon as you hear of the shooting, and like continue to watch it, like if you got like a 3 or 4 hour block to just chill out and keep tuning into these stories. Many of them, like the details change as they happen, and that could be because they're sometimes tragic events. Like you tend to overblow things, but sometimes, like in the case of this Minnesota one, I mean, and again, it happened over the weekend, and I knew that the No Kings protests were happening, and I know Minnesota's hyper liberal, the home of Tim Walz, the man's man. But uh, when I heard that this shooting had taken place and that some political figures were shot, it kind of perked my ear up because I was already watching TV. It was raining. I knew the No Kings protests were on YouTube, so I was watching a lot of that, and the Trump parade for the Army's 250th birthday as well. But when it came to the details of the shooting, it just sounded sus. They said that the shooter, a 57-year-old man, had entered the home of a politician and shot him and his wife. And they survived it, but they opened the door for him while he was wearing like this prosthetic mask. The pictures of him don't look to be of the same weight as the fat guy that they captured. The guy that they show in the ring camera, like entering to the house with the prosthetic mask, looks to be a bit more fit than the rotund 57-year-old guy that they ended up capturing yesterday. Because if you guys don't know, the Minnesota assassin was apprehended by the authorities, which is also kind of like funky too. He had a roommate that the news was speaking to, getting information about the shooter, and the roommate was also his best friend. But he also lived with his wife out. So it's kind of like sus as to why he has a roommate in this other apartment, in addition to having a wife who he had a house with. But his wife was also apprehended with a bunch of passports, guns, in a vehicle, like in a vehicle stop. She was stopped and she had a lot of weaponry, guns, ammunition, um, several passports, according to the reports. Um, and they said that she was near the Canada-Minnesota border, if I remember correctly. What else was sus regarding that story? They also said that the assassin had texted his friend like a goodbye note while like the reporters were talking to his friend, and they asked if they could get a camera shot of the text, and the friend was like all like apprehensive, and they didn't get any camera shot of the text. And, like the guy's like sending text out after he does like these two shootings or an assassination, and they can't pinpoint them. Also, while he did the first shooting, I think that there was he actually had interaction with the police on site, and he was able to scurry past them and get into a getaway vehicle somehow. Uh, just seems like I mean, the guy is like a fat guy. I mean, doesn't look fleet of foot. 57 years old, big doofy dude. Doesn't look like a killer either. It looks like kind of like sus. And then also, since it was a liberal politician that was killed, they're kind of like trying to make it seem as though this is political violence that is attributed to the right, where the guy was actually a political appointee, which is another kind of funky thing of Tim Walz, who's super liberal. And the politician that he killed had recently signed or signed onto a bill which would limit the health care of immigrants in the state of Minnesota. Her last interview, she was actually crying um, under distress, like under duress, because she had to sign this bill. Like, and she actually said, I think, something to the effect that people would be mad at her for doing so. So, and it was for, again, like giving healthcare to Minnesota immigrants, and she sided with the Republicans and chose to vote against it. So it's not like she's getting killed for no liberal cause, if that's the reason as to why she got her life ended. Jeez. Um, But again, the mainstream media is always willing to try to frame conservatives as demons. But I mean, hopefully we see what plays out with that. The guy seems to have supposedly a kill list, but it was a actually like a contact book or an address list of political contacts from the state of Minnesota, and he actually had again a political appointment by the governor of Minnesota, who was just running for vice president, Manly Tim Walz. And the story just stinks through and through. Amigo, what up, my brother? Thanks for coming through, bro. I'm gonna hit you up after this too, bro. Debo. And so I mean, it's just something to keep note of. I mean, again, like these stories, especially when they happen over the weekend, sometimes they're meant to be distractions or funky, to say the least. But I want to talk about my last story, another story that's being severely underreported on the regular news, and it's regarding a report by the head of the FBI, Kash Patel, in which he said that there's evidence of China being involved in trying to rig a election here in America. And I'm actually gonna read from an article. I'll show the article too. My cat's bugging me. Get out of here. Yeah, this demon. Get out of here. With the whole rubbing thing. And he's like 40 pounds too, and he's over. But this is from Just the News, and um, as far as because somebody is gonna follow it up, and or a hater may follow it up like they always do, and on the internet, and say, "Oh, no, just the news." Oh, that's you got that from Twitter. It was actually from a Twitter post that was from the FBI director Kash Patel, and he referred to this article that I'm reading to you now. Um, and the headline is, again, this is from Just the News, and this is for entertainment, educational purposes only. FBI asks spy agencies to destroy intel on alleged China plot to aid Joe Biden in the 2020 election. Memo turned over by FBI Director Kash Patel to Senator Chuck Grassley details plot to use fake driver's licenses to swing 2020 elections to Democrats' favor. Just in the headline, I mean, that's a lot, because this topic, as far recently, was highly censored on the platform that I'm on as we speak. You could get booted off of the internet around the 2020 time frame for alluding to the fact that there may be some funkiness in relation to the 2020 election. As you guys recall, or if you guys don't know, Joe Biden was the highest vote receiver of all time. I think he had 81 or 84 million votes in the 2020 election. And you guys already know, I mean, like Joe Biden was on full display these last 4 years. I mean, I don't gotta illustrate more than the fact that he operated as somebody who was in a living coma, and the country suffered for that. High rate of migrants, economy destroyed, so on and so forth. But this story is alleging that the FBI asked spy agencies to destroy intel on alleged China plot to aid Joe Biden in the 2020 election. Very interesting. Confidential human source told FBI counterintelligence in the summer of 2020 that China's communist government was shipping fake driver's licenses to the United States to manufacture tens of thousands of fraudulent mail-in votes for Joe Biden, according to a raw intelligence report distributed to federal agencies that was reviewed by Just the News. Just the News is the website that I'm recording from. I'll take a pause to see that I had a comment. Icon says Iran's missiles were promised to Israel over 3,000 years ago. I don't know. But thank you for coming, Icon. The report, one of two, sent Monday by FBI Director Kash Patel to Senate Judiciary Committee Chairman Chuck Grassley, was sent to U.S. intelligence agencies on August of 2020. So again, this is August of 2020 that this report was sent, and this is leading into the 2020 election, which happened in November 2020. So I'll read that again. The report, one of two, sent Monday by FBI Cash Director to Senate Judiciary Committee Chairman Chuck Grassley, was sent to U.S. intelligence agencies on August, again, of 2020, 4 months before the election, as an uncorroborated advisory, then suddenly recalled with little explanation on other than the Bureau wanted to re-interview the source, document stated. The recall notice specifically asked spy agencies to erase or delete the original intelligence memo. The memo show. So, according to the article, they're saying that this report that was kind of like put out as a red flag, or like kind of like be on the lookout for the fact that leading into the 2020 election, um, there was a large number of Chinese people that were caught, I guess, trying to make several driver's licenses for the election that was soon to take place. But though that report was out there, somebody, according to the article, they recalled uh, the report with little explanation other than the interview wanted to re-interview the source, the document stated. So, like, they pretty much stopped the investigation, kind of like months leading into the election, in a sense, and for the purposes of re-interviewing people, which doesn't make much sense, because time is of the essence. A few months away from the election. This report was recalled in order to re-interview the source. Recipients should destroy all copies of the original report and remove the original report from all computer holdings, the recall notice said. So this is the recall notice, saying that this report was going to be halted, and they're telling people to remove original report from all computer holdings. Like, basically get rid of the report from computers. Officials told Just the News the recall kept the FBI and other agencies from fully investigating allegations that Beijing, China, was trying to meddle in the U.S. election to Biden's benefit, though corroborating evidence came in from a fellow law enforcement agency. They said the U.S. Customs and Border Protection captured 19,888 of the fake driver's licenses, mostly from Hong Kong and China, in the late July 2020 on their way to battleground states in the Midwest. Now, I'm not sure if you guys caught all that, but apparently the U.S. Customs and Border Patrol were telling, I guess, the FBI that, and was telling U.S. intelligence agencies that they had captured 19,888 of these fake driver's licenses, that they were already known by intelligence agencies or law enforcement agencies, you could probably assume as well, had wind of the fact that this operation was taking place, and that they were investigating it already, and they actually had tangible evidence, in this case, of almost 20,000 driver's licenses that were found by the U.S. Um, Customs and Border Patrol, and for some reason they stopped the investigation outright. I mean, again, they stopped this investigation in August of 2020. There's a reason why as to why they did it, though. I would guess. Let me stop the recording for a second. I want to drink some water. I'm dying over here, my peoples. So I mean, like, if you guys yeah. So if you guys didn't catch all of what I just said, so let me take another sip of water, and I'll explain it from what I think is being said in the article. So they're saying that there was an investigation underway for all of this sometime in 2020, which was stopped from continuing in August of 2020. There's this investigation underway regarding fake driver's licenses that are being sent to America. And at some point, either before or after that, a different law enforcement agency, I guess, initially the intelligence agencies were investigating this whole China driver's license election scandal, or that they're researching. But then there's actually tangible evidence by way of U.S. Customs and Border Patrol actually captured 19,888 driver's licenses. When it comes to American elections, swing states are the most important, the battleground states, and these driver's licenses are going uh, to these battleground states in essence. The 2020 election, Joe Biden received the most votes in the history of any presidential election. That's one thing, but in a lot of these swing states, a lot of times, in many of these cases, like Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, Georgia, um, there was a small margin of victory. Michigan, there were small margins of victory, and funkiness that happened, like in like the case of Michigan and Atlanta, Georgia, in 2020 election. And again, I mean, I even now have to dance around the subject, because if I would have been talking about the 2020 election back then in this capacity, I would have been thrown off the internet. You know, it was a subject, like many third rail topics with liberals, that you just can't approach. You know, COVID, election, so on. But so the gist of what I've just read in the article, I'm going to continue reading, is that this uh, operation to bring in Chinese or driver's licenses from China to America in order to try to win the election for Joe Biden. And they're not saying that they wanted an election engineer specifically in this referral by Kash Patel, that they were intending winning the election for Joe Biden. Like, it wasn't just a case of meddling battle. Like, they were meddling, according to this report, to give Joe Biden an edge. But I'll continue. The subject line of the FBI, oh, they said that, I'll start from where I left off. They said the U.S. Customs and Border Protection had captured 19,888 of the fake driver's licenses, mostly from Hong Kong and China, in the late 2020. in July of 2020 on their way to battleground states in the Midwest. So late in July of 2020, they capture these 19,888 driver's licenses, so 20,000 driver's licenses almost, on their way to these battleground states. And then a few weeks later, the intelligence agencies seem to call off this investigation. I mean, they just had evidence, right, a few weeks before that, call off in August that 19,888 had fake driver's licenses had been captured by the Border Patrol. So, very suspect that they canned this investigation. The subject line of the FBI intelligence bulletin succinctly stated the potential nature of the alleged plot: Chinese government production of export and fraudulent U.S. driver's licenses to Chinese sympathizers in the United States in order to create tens of thousands of fraudulent mail in votes for the U.S. presidential candidate Joe Biden in late August 2020. Again, they're clearly indicating that this was an effort to create these fake votes, in essence, for Joe Biden. The intelligence report was not deemed corroborated, making clear it was raw intelligence and that the informant was relatively new and has been corroborated for less than 1 year. It also noted the information was indirect through a subsource. Warning: this is an information report, not finally evaluated intelligence, the report told other agencies. It also flagged one aspect of the informant's allegation that information about the fake driver's licenses were gleaned from TikTok accounts of Americans. And this is they're kind of saying as to the reason why they said that the source of the report was not to be like trustworthy or reevaluated because he supposedly gleaned or suggested that some of the information was taken from TikTok in order to give, I guess, these fake driver's licenses valid info, that they were somehow scraping that info from TikTok. That said, the FBI bulletin significantly detailed information for agencies to investigate as leads to make sure the U.S. election wasn't being hijacked by a foreign power seeking to exploit a sudden explosion in mail-in voting during the COVID pandemic that struck earlier in 2020. In late August 2020, the Chinese government had produced a large amount of fraudulent driver's licenses that were secretly exported to the United States, the report reads. The fraudulent driver's licenses would allow tens of thousands of Chinese students and immigrants sympathetic to the Communist Party to vote for the U.S. presidential candidate, USPER. And there's a quote: China had collected private U.S. data from millions of TikTok accounts to include name, ID, and address, which would allow the Chinese government to use real U.S. persons' information to create the fraudulent driver's license. The report continues. The fraudulent driver's license were to include true ID number and true address of U.S. citizens, making them difficult to detect. China planned to use fraudulent driver's license to account for tens of thousands of mail-in votes. So this is a real malicious seeming scheme, and I'm not sure if they're working hand in hand with the powers that be of the Biden administration. But if China's making it to where Joe Biden would get elected in 2020, they have to be drawing some sort of benefit, one would assume. After Just the News reported on the existence of the intelligence bulletin Monday evening, Grassley, Senator, on Tuesday implored Patel to investigate the circumstances of the memos more intensively to determine who ordered the recall and why. So they're trying to figure out who stopped this investigation, essentially. The document alleges serious national security concerns that need to be fully investigated by the FBI, the senator's office said in a statement. Grassley is requesting additional documentation from the FBI to verify the production and is urging the FBI to do its due diligence to investigate why the document was recalled and who recalled it and to inform the American people of his finding. Kash Patel told Just the News on Monday evening that he is fully investigating the circumstances surrounding the intelligence report and its recall. And I'll stop right there. I mean, so I don't know if I only have bots here at the moment listening to me, but I don't know what you guys think. But this is my audio's on. This is a very hairy implication. I mean, one, Trump seems to be honed in on tariff negotiations with China. Yeah, they hammered out an agreement recently. I believe China was being tariffed 55% to where the US was being tariffed by China 10% in the new agreement. But Trump seems to have called off his last deal because of something that China did in violation to the agreement that they initially had in place. Trump walked away from that deal, and then they had to hammer out this new deal recently with better terms for the U.S., which is not being reported by much of the mainstream media. Could this report, now that Kash Patel, the Trump appointed director of the FBI, make the China relationship with the US and Trump far more tenuous than what it already is? Now that it seems as though there's hard evidence of one, this operation by China taking place, but two, also in this whole maneuver was done to help Joe Biden, and the fact that the intelligence agencies turned a blind eye to it months before the U.S. election took place, it's a real cause for concern. I mean, it's these, if it's true, is another of the biggest political scandals that have happened in the history of America. And it seems as though Trump has a couple of those attributed to him. And in every instance, it's done in an effort to hurt President Trump. When you look at this, in addition to like the times that, for instance, Trump has been impeached, it's a lot of times these collaborations that happen with these characters that are kind of like not out in the public in these agencies, and also now like what we're learning, other countries altogether like China that are able to carry out these operations that have large scale implications. If you conclude that Joe Biden, probably the worst president in the history of America, was more likely than not given a victory in the 2020 election that wasn't his, and look at all the mess that has played out under his administration. But we're just finding out about this now. I didn't hear about this once, not even on Fox News. Did I hear about this on Fox News? No, I didn't hear about this on Fox News. So that just goes to show you. I heard about this on YouTube. But it's verified. I mean, it was on Twitter as well. Kash Patel, like the FBI director of the FBI, shared the article that I just read to you. Unfortunately, that article was given to an agency like Just the News that nobody's ever heard of, rather than a Fox and ABC. And I'm pretty sure it's because Fox, ABC, NBC, CNN, they have all received these reports as well, in addition to newspapers like the Washington Post and the LA Times and the New York Times. But they're not going to report on this stuff because it may look Trump redeemable to the eyes of the American public, and the liberal media would rather bury itself than to give Trump any sort of credit. And that's one of the reasons, that I listen to or take note of what is happening in the Trump world, because for some reason, I mean, like the establishment at all, you know, they, the unknown hand, the slimy characters, whether that be in the media, the political class, not only on the left, but the conservatives, they just started turning to kissing Trump's ass. Like most of them had turned their backs on Trump for Ron DeSantis, like immediately after, like every time that Trump had a bump in the road. But for some reason, I mean, it seems that all these people have a distaste for Trump. And I mean, for that reason alone, I mean, it makes me take note of what's happening in his world. Like, I don't want to be in a political position like some idiots online, many idiots on YouTube, and frankly, that operate with the notion of I only want to listen to negative things about Trump, or I want to not listening to what you're saying and bring up only examples of negative things that I could conjure right now that have to do with Trump. I mean, like, these are the conversations that, one at, shouldn't be having right now, in 2025. It's very important that people are informed of stories like the one that I just read to you, because they have large scale implications. I mean, like, Trump may look at the fact that China, if this is all true, conducted an operation like this and think that it was in line with a military operation. I mean, and many people within the MAGA base will probably conclude the same. I mean, it's not far out to think that this is seemingly an incursion by bad actors. I mean, whether that be here in America or abroad, I'm not sure. But it's really scary that a lot of people, kind of stories like this do play out, and they kind of seem to fall under the radar because it's happening to Trump in a sense. It's the only explanation, honestly. You look at like RussiaGate, and that also has to do with Grassley, because I think Grassley recommended that Rita Ora, um, I think her testimony be looked at, or I don't know. And Rita Ora was one of the RussiaGate people. But that kind of came and went. I mean, like nobody talks about RussiaGate nowadays. I mean, people will tell you that Trump is like a Putin slave, or some outlandish, bombastic claim like that. Trump is beholden to Russia and beholden to Trump. But a lot of that allegation comes from specifically Russiagate, and Russiagate was investigated and found out to be not true. Hopefully, more information comes out about that. But is the fact that Russiagate was a farce reported by the mainstream media? Absolutely not. And YouTube is the real news, my peoples. Twitter is the real news nowadays. Fox News is a joke, CNN is a joke, MSNBC is a joke. They're all busters. You know, Fox doesn't want Trump to be in power, probably just as much as the CNNs of the world don't. So I mean, it's better to get takes by people who are like you rather than New York conservatives from Fox that frown upon you, or liberal hacks that hate their own existence, and you included. But with that, I hope you guys have a wonderful rest of your evening. My back's killing me. If you came for the cats, there's one. It's another one. Rest of your evening. Something happens, I'll always come on. Maybe I'll make my way on here tomorrow morning. I don't know. Just haven't been up for it. Or I mean, I have been coming consistently though. But if you guys do help me, uh, inspire me by liking the content, subscribing, sharing the content as well. YouTube is not in the business of helping a Puerto Rican from New York um, who has views that don't line up with the liberal lunacy of the DNC, if you will. But you guys, by being here, liking and sharing and viewing, interacting, it gives a middle finger to YouTube and the algorithm. So do help me give that middle finger, and more importantly, do come through and navigate with me together. With that, I hope you guys have a wonderful evening. I'm out. Thank you for stepping into the Foul Play Line with me. As always, I am Sir Foul Player of Brooklyn. Peace.